our Bible story today is going to take place after Noah. So just to review Noah, remember that the animals had left the ark and they would have babies and more babies, and those babies would grow and have babies, and the earth would fill with animals. Noah and his wife and his grown sons and their wives, they also left the ark and they would have babies. Those babies would grow up and have babies, and pretty soon the earth is getting full of animals and people again. So you could say the earth was filled with people at the time that our story takes place. So let's talk about a man named Abraham. Actually, before he was called Abraham, he was called Abram. So just Abram. Okay, and Abram lived in a country where, guess what? People did not love God. I don't think they're really learning their lesson, are they? But they did not love God, and they did not believe in God, but Abram did. So Abram's a good guy in our story. And God spoke to Abram and told him to pack all of his things and move to the land that God would show him. So God didn't really just tell him where to move. He just said, you're just going to go. You're just going to go and do what I tell you to do. And God also made a promise to Abram, though. He made a promise that he would make his people, that means his relatives, his descendants, like his children, grandchildren, and children, their grandchildren, everybody, from him, that he would make them a great nation. That means that there would be a lot of them, and they would be known for doing great things. Okay? Well, Abram thought about what God said about moving and packing up his things and just leaving. And he didn't say, I don't really know if I should do that. Why should I do that, God? No, Abram was obedient, and he just obeyed. Now, if you lived in Bible times where there was no cars, no vans, no moving trucks, how would you pack up all your things and move? Well, back in Bible times, they would use donkeys, okay? All right, and so donkeys and camels would be able to carry a lot of weight. They're pretty strong animals, and especially across a long, maybe deserty area or where it's really dry and rocky. So they packed up their things, they tied them to the backs of the donkeys, and some of them maybe even rode the donkeys or rode the camels, and they started to go where God told them to. Now, Abram's wife, her name was Sarai, not Sarah, not yet anyway. Her name was Sarai. Can you say that? Sarai. So we have Abram and Sarai, and then Abram's nephew, Lot, so he's Uncle Abram to this man named Lot. He brought Lot and his family with him too. So he was taking care of him, and Abram did not exactly know where they were going, but he trusted God to show him the way. He just said, okay, God, you show me where to go, and I will obey. Finally, after a very long trip, they landed in a place called Canaan. Now today, it is the country of like Israel, and I believe Jordan and Syria and Lebanon. So if you have your parents show you a map of Israel, that would be the old Canaan, and that's going to be where Abram is going to have his family. There's lots of stories are going to happen after this, but that is the land that God has promised to Abram. Well, as the years passed, Abram and his wife, they were very rich actually, and God blessed Abram for his obedience. Now, back then when you were rich, you didn't necessarily have like a lot of money, but if you had animals, you were rich. So Abram had lots of sheep and camels and other kinds of animals, and he had lots of servants because he needed them to take care of all those animals. So he was a very rich man. And he had many servants to take care of those sheep and other animals, but also remember that Lot lived with Abram. Now Lot was a grown man now, and he also had lots of sheep and other animals, and so he had his own servants. So Abram has his servants and Lot has his servants, and that's going to be kind of a problem. Okay, so sometimes when Abram's servants took the animals for fresh water and green grass, they would run into Lot's servants and animals also looking for fresh water and green grass, and pretty soon those servants began to fight and argue over the land. Now Abram heard about this and he didn't like that so much. He didn't want people to argue, and he wanted there to be peace in the family. So he told Lot that we have plenty that God has given to us. How about we do something about it? And so Abram took Lot and said, let's have our families go 2 different ways, so we're not fighting about things. Abram and Lot looked out over the land, and one side was beautiful and green, lots of grass. I mean, just what you would think of putting your animals, that's where it would be. Now the other part was rocky, and there's big mountains, and it'd be really hard to care for animals there and to find fresh water. Well, Abram was not thinking of himself. He told Lot that he could have the first pick. Do you want the green grassy land or the other dry land? And Lot was selfish. So we have unselfish Abram and selfish Lot. And Lot picked the best for himself. He wanted the green grassy area for his animals and his people, and so that's what he chose. And Abram was okay with that. Well, God blessed Abram for his obedience and for his unselfishness, and so he told Abram to look again. And he said, Abram, look out over the land. Look as far as you can see. So Abram, he looks out, and he can see more than just the rocky land and the mountains. He can see more than that, and that was good because there was good land that he saw too. Green, grassy land. And God said, Abram, you can have the land as far as you could see. And that was miles and miles and miles of land that Abram could see. And so we learn that Abram was unselfish and happy to give to Lot. We also learn that God blessed Abram for his obedience and for his unselfishness. He gave Abram more land than he thought he was getting. So sometimes God does that to us. He wants us to obey, and he gives us a little blessing. But then sometimes because we've learned to obey him, he gives us more and more things that help us and just a promise to take care of us. God would make Abram's family a great nation. Now, at this time, though, Abram and Sarai have no children, and they are getting old. So we'll see that Abram and Sarai will have a son when they are like 80 years old. I think 90 years old, actually, when they had their first child. So that's kind of an interesting thing, too, that God told Abram that he would bless him, but in order to have a great nation, you've got to have children. And they would have it later on in life. So God always keeps his promises no matter what age we are. So we see that God loves us, keeps his promises. We are to be like Abram, obey, be unselfish, and then see what God can do.